Hello and welcome to the Hub Podcast. My name is Eric Berger, Director of Marketing for Volunteer Hub, software that helps nonprofits better recruit, engage, and manage volunteers. Today I am joined by Jeannie Hebert, Volunteer Coordinator for Rhode Island Community Food Bank. Hey Jeannie, it's wonderful to have you on the podcast this morning. I'm really excited to dive into the incredible work that you're doing at Rhode Island Community Food Bank and learn how Volunteer Hub has played a pivotal role within your organization.
Thanks so much, Eric. I'm really happy to be here.
To kick things off, could you provide our listeners with some insights into the origins of Rhode Island Community Food Bank and your role within the organization?
Absolutely. So the Rhode Island Community Food Bank has been around since 1982. So we celebrated our 40th anniversary just not too long ago. And for the last several years, we've been distributing millions of pounds of food to our little state here. We are the one and only food bank in the state of Rhode Island. We are so small that we can cover the entire state. So my role here at the food bank is I'm the volunteer coordinator. So I field all of the volunteer requests that we get those scheduled, and then I also help with providing volunteers for special events or special projects within the community.
And I think you just briefly touched on it, but could you share some notable impacts that the food bank has made within the Rhode Island community?
Sure. So the Rhode Island Food Bank, we have a network of member agencies, is what we call them. Right now, we are distributing to 143 agencies throughout the state. Last year, we distributed over 16 million pounds of food. Almost 4 million pounds of that was fresh produce, which we're incredibly proud of. And then a newer kind of intention of ours is to be providing more culturally relevant food. And last year we distributed almost 3 million pounds of culturally relevant food.
Now, regarding your volunteer program, so if we switch gears a little, how many volunteers do you typically recruit each year? And then what kind of roles do volunteers fulfill within the organization?
So our program, it is admittedly a little bit smaller than it was pre-COVID, but we are currently scheduling and hosting about 1,700 volunteers here at our warehouse in our production room each year. And that's been kind of the case the last few years since 2020. And volunteers here on site, they work in our warehouse and they help us we have several large box packing projects that our volunteers help us with. They help us sort through and rebag produce to kind of get it into more manageable, quantities to go out to our pantries. And then they also help us to sort and inspect any donated food items that we receive here at the food bank.
And I'm sure with having that many volunteers, you have to have an efficient way to manage them. So, how did you manage volunteers before implementing Volunteer Hub?
Prior to Volunteer Hub, we used an Excel spreadsheet. We kind of had our, availability for the month, shift wise. We had it kind of in an Excel spreadsheet, partnered with a lot of emails back and forth to do the coordination with the companies or the organizations that were trying to schedule events. We put kind of the who's coming and how many are going to be here. We put it all out onto a shared Outlook calendar. So it was kind of a combination of a few kind of outdated methods, I think.
So, with using different software, obviously there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So, having a centralized system was probably your biggest reason to start looking for volunteer management software. Is that kind of correct?
Absolutely. Again, we're Excel spreadsheet, we're emailing, we're using an Outlook calendar, and you're right, we're kind of jumping in, 4 different areas just to schedule one volunteer event. So we wanted to figure out how can we streamline that. And our main goal was to really try to eliminate the emails that it was kind of requiring just to schedule one volunteer shift.
And so when you were in the process of looking for volunteer management software, what made Volunteer Hub stand out?
So I initially put out a question to our a network of food banks that we are part of, Feeding America, which is, nationwide, hundreds of food banks across the country. I kind of put out to, that network, what are you all using? So we kind of narrowed it down, checked out a couple different of the software options. And the more we dug into Volunteer Hub, the more we could see that it'd be perfect for exactly the way that we use it here. Again, our program is probably quite small compared to some of the other, larger food banks across the country, but it just was perfect for what we needed it to do.
Yeah, that's really cool that Volunteer Hub's name is being spread among Feeding America food banks because I know we work with quite a few of them. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, it was definitely the software program that kept popping up. And then when I would, direct that, colleague at that food bank or connect with them, they would just fill me in on all of the reasons they loved it and how they used it. And it just became more and more evident that it was going to be perfect for our program.
And kind of transitioning to Volunteer Hub features, what aspects of Volunteer Hub do you find the most valuable in your day-to-day operations now?
Definitely the the kind of automated process where a lot of what was time consuming for me prior to us getting Volunteer Hub, though again I go back to the email back and forth, the confirmation emails, reminder emails, for all of that to now be automated through Volunteer Hub has been a huge time saver. And it's just really eliminated a lot of back and forth. For me, and it's freed up my time to do other things, which is nice.
And Kaylin, our client success manager, she said that you have a cool collaboration that you're working on with Brown University. So I'd love to kind of understand that and then learn how Volunteer Hub has played a role in that project.
Definitely. So every 4 years, the Rhode Island Community Food Bank partners with Brown University, which of course is right here in Providence, to do a hunger survey. And it's an enormous undertaking. It's headed up by the team of researchers at Brown, but they contract the food bank and me and my department specifically to provide all of the volunteers for the study. We are responsible for recruiting, training, and scheduling all volunteers to do those site visits. And to the 2023 survey. So we had done it in 2019, and we were working off of, an extensive, again, Excel spreadsheet. We were emailing the volunteers back and forth directly, and it was incredibly time consuming. And this was something that we were doing on top of our roles within the food bank. So this was completely aside from that. And so for the 2023 hunger survey, to have Volunteer Hub, it just streamlined the process for us so much. It made things so easy to just send a link, to the volunteers, and then from there it was in their hands as far as registering for visits, getting the confirmation email, getting the reminder email, canceling if they needed to. Um, I just can't speak enough to how much it made our job easier for the food bank.
That sounds like a really cool collaboration. I know you guys use Razor's Edge. Can you also talk to the value of Volunteer Hub's integration with that platform?
Definitely. And that was also a key factor in why we ended up going with Volunteer Hub was the ability to just sync with Razor's Edge, which we use obviously for our, constituent database. That was huge. Didn't require us to, do anything additional. And just everything that goes to Volunteer Hub, it's a quick, easy, I do maybe a weekly sync, and it could not be any easier.
And I'm sure you get good insights about the relationship between volunteers and donors through that integration.
Absolutely. It's nice to be able to, sync everything up. Everybody that's coming in as a new volunteer and going into the volunteer Hub database, once they're over in Razor's Edge, then they're able to, be on our email list, our newsletters, things like that. So it's helped to turn new volunteers into donors, which is huge. And obviously the whole, what development is all about.
Let's kind of step back a little bit. Your transition to Volunteer Hub as your volunteer management solution, how was the experience from an implementation standpoint? And then also, as of now, what has your experience been like with support and client success?
It's been fantastic. I can't say enough about, Matt, who walked us through the implementation and did all of our trainings, really taking the time to just make sure that we understood everything, specifically how Volunteer Hub could work best for our program, running through scenarios with us. I mean, I had 100 questions and Matt answered all of them and made sure that we were really good to go. We had the unique kind of experience of bringing Volunteer Hub on in 2020. So kind of during the pandemic, where our volunteer program was actually not active during 2020 and into 2021, just for safety reasons and all of that. Our facility was completely closed to volunteers. So we were able to bring in Volunteer Hub, get up to speed with it, figure out how it was going to work for our program, and then go live with it when we actually were bringing volunteers literally back into the building. And so Matt was incredible about just getting us poised for success when we actually had volunteers back here physically in the building. And then the first couple of months, I definitely reached out to the support desk several times and can't say enough about Jen and her team and just how responsive they are, how thorough their responses are. And I think Jen also has a unique ability to almost predict what my next question is going to be. And she kind of always answers it before I can even ask.
Yeah, we have a team of rock stars here, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
And I think my final question is for any listeners that are in Rhode Island and they want to get involved with the food bank, how can they do so?
Absolutely. Well, our website, you can go right to our website, which is rifoodbank.org. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. We are on Twitter. So we're on all of the usual social media channels.
Perfect. So if you're in Rhode Island and you're looking for a place to volunteer, make sure you check out the Rhode Island Community Food Bank. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you, and I'm excited to see the continued impact that Rhode Island Community Food Bank makes in the community in the future.
It's been so wonderful talking with you and sharing what a great choice Volunteer Hub was for the Rhode Island Community Food Bank. And like I said, as I've seen with my colleagues across the Feeding America network, which runs throughout the United States, you guys are doing wonders for food banks across the country, including ours.